The intrepid men of the aeroplane factory are met by a squadron of well-wishers as they return from another epic journey. Over the last 45 days, they have flown right around the world in a prototype of their new four-seater aircraft, designed and manufactured at their small factory just 20 minutes south of Johannesburg. Seeing that they have already flown around the world once in the prototype of their first aircraft, the question that needs to be asked is why would they want to do it again?
The reason is first and foremost because we love adventure, myself and Mike and Jean. It's for fun. It's not for marketing, it's not to prove anything to the world. The second reason why we do it is to test the aircraft, to have the opportunity to spend some really proper time in it.
And spend proper time in her they have. Being stuck in a tube for flying times averaging 18 hours without the luxury of a toilet, you would imagine that proper time would be achieved within a couple of flights. But no, they have spent 240 hours in her in the last 45 days.
I want to thank two very special people, these two dudes, for giving me the ride right around the world. They could have easily said, John, build us the plane, okay, run the factory, and they ducked off, but thank you very much.
It was equitable because Mike and I have flown around the world. So we agreed that each of us would do half, and Jean the whole trip.
Jean is the most junior of the three partners at the airplane factory. Since sitting and watching Mike and James fly around the world in 2009, achieving this milestone for himself has become an obsession.
How you doing?
Getting to be fun.
It's whoa, man, the world's not such a bad place, eh?
Yeah, and I mean, with a nice fat tailwind, there's something really peaceful about it, just cruising.
I would say it's probably one of the most exciting things that I've had to follow in a long time.
They're very, very brave and a little bit crazy.
In true South African spirit, they went out and they did it. Refreshing to see someone that, in the recession, just taking chances and living their life.
Their journey had caught the imagination of thousands of people from all over the world who were logging into the Aeroplane Factory website daily to follow their progress. James's last leg between Hawaii and Los Angeles had brought them more than halfway round.
I caught a commercial flight to Los Angeles, and so that I could swap places with James. I was quite anxious. They didn't have a satellite tracker with them, so we had no idea where they were. Anyway, we flew up north to meet them in the air.
The first person that we met that we knew in the last month arrived at our wingtip, Mike and Matt. That was incredible.
There they were, and the plane was so beautiful in the air.
Pictures of Mike arriving in LA with a package under his arm caused much debate on the website.
I've got a Christmas present for you too.
What was inside was kept secret, but we can tell you now that it contained extra fuel tanks to be installed inside the cabin for one long death-defying flight towards the end of the circumnavigation.
Golly, these tanks fit nicely.
The number of times my heart was in my mouth when I heard what they were going to do, especially when they flew from Rio to Cape Town. I thought they're pushing their luck too much.
The attempt to fly over 6,000 kilometers of ocean without anywhere to land came as a complete surprise to everyone.
We weren't 100% sure about the flight. We weren't 100% sure the plane would be able to pick up the weight and carry the fuel. So we didn't want to announce it too soon. Only once we were in Rio did we actually announce it to the world that we were going to fly Rio to Cape Town, which has never been done in a small aircraft like this before.
The morning of the crossing, and of course we were full of nerves, and we'd had all these messages from people sort of concerned about our safety.
If we don't get this right,
We're gonna die.
we did.
Tim, a very good and trusted friend of ours, said, when I got married, my father came to me and he said, even though the people in the church are ready, you can still say no. So Jean and Mike, you can still chicken out. But if you want to go, good luck. Tim.
And now what now? Yeah.
Mike and I looked at each other like, stretch this thing off, close the scene, grab the bags and go fly.
But then Jean and I started getting a little bit panicky just before the flight started. And we said, maybe we should take a little bit of extra fuel just in case.
With the additional fuel, the plane was more than 300 kilograms overweight. So even if it did manage to get airborne, there was a possibility that the plane wouldn't climb. So they made a plan.
If we couldn't stay airborne and we were starting to descend into the sea, we were then going to open that door We'd set the rope long enough so it could open just enough, and then start by unloading those 2 cans of fuel. And then the bags were going out first. First our personal gear, my computer, the toolkit, which is quite heavy. The food was the last thing we were going to unload. Maybe the life raft was very large.
The Sling 4 performed outstandingly, lifting all that excess weight without complaint. But Mike and Jean had overcome only the smallest challenge of a trip that was in itself one giant hurdle.
Just heading off over the widest bit of the Atlantic Ocean, well, this is it. The further you got, the deeper you got into it.
Not only were they staking the reputation of their business on attempting to fly their single-engined aeroplane for close to 30 hours over the widest stretch of the Atlantic Ocean, but also confronting the very real scenario of disappearing without trace should they develop any major problem.
I worried about the potential for an engine failure with us being so heavy that we'd hit the sea and sink instantly. We wouldn't have enough time to get out.
As the sun set that evening, we put our immersion suits on and got ready for the night, knowing now you've got this whole night to get through.
I mean, we were in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, so far from potential rescue. People had told us about these horror stories of people drifting for weeks and weeks and never being found, and so we kind of were flying along with these kind of things in our minds.
Which was exciting in a whole different way because it was very high risk simply because of its distance.
It was certainly the most nerve-wracking long flight that I've ever undertaken. Actually, Jean was the first one to say, check, 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 look, you can see that little square mountain was just this light blue, and that out of the mist. I've never been so relieved in my life to see land and to see a mountain like that, you know. Such a relief.
Favourable tailwinds helped them across in 27 hours with 4 hours of fuel in reserve. They had done it. After overnighting in Cape Town, James joined Mike and Jean in the plane and they headed back to Tedderfield Air Park, where they started their odyssey 45 days before.
I think there were a lot of people that thought that we were crazy to do something like this again, a second time. When I came back from Los Angeles, I said, that's it for me, I'm never going to do this again. But flying with Mike and Jean today, I changed my mind. I am going to do it again.